Welcome to Birth to Boardroom. I'm Natalie, and today we're celebrating women who don't wait for permission, don't wait for rescue, and don't wait for someone else to save the day. Because this show is all about women who step into their power and lead with purpose. Before we begin, I want to introduce you to the incredible woman who is behind this movement, and her name is your host, Deb Kowalski. Deb has helped brands stand out, and now she's helping women do the same. As your host of Birth to Boardroom, she brings inspiring conversations with trailblazing women who turn passion into purpose. Deb has helped brands stand out, and now she's helping women to do the same. As your host of Birth to Boardroom, she brings inspiring conversations with trailblazing women who've turned passion into purpose and are changing the game from starter to success. Before we get going, I also want to introduce myself. I'm Natalie, a strategic leader who blends clarity, creativity, and courage. I've spent my career building high-performing teams, transforming experiences, and reinventing brands across global boardrooms, bringing energy and a signature Friday feeling flair. Deb, thank you for bringing me into this series. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. It's been so great having you on as my co-host in this series, truly. Today's conversation is one I know will resonate deeply with so many women listening. The topic today, brave every day, what courage really looks like at work. A conversation about redefining bravery in corporate spaces, reframing fear as a signal for growth, and building everyday courage in leadership. Today's guest is a woman who has dedicated her career to helping leaders practice courage in real time, Marissa McCourry. Marissa has worked across academia, consulting, and global corporations, giving her a rare 360-degree perspective on leadership. She has coached senior leaders, developed executive teams, and challenged organizations to rethink what bravery really looks like at work. So today, we're talking about brave every day, what courage actually looks like inside boardrooms, behind titles, and in the quiet moments when fear shows up but purpose calls louder. Marissa McCourry, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So great
Happy
to have
be
you.
here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start by letting our listeners get to know you a bit. Can you share a little bit about your journey and what first pulled you into the work of developing leaders?
Sure. I have a little bit of an interesting trajectory into leadership development. My first entree into working with really senior leaders was in corporate communications in an industry that's called corporate theater. And when I say that, folks usually raise their eyebrows. Corporate theater, what is that? But really, it was corporate communications from a main stage. And I worked with really senior leaders on how do you comport yourself on a literal stage with an audience of sometimes hundreds or thousands. The lights are in your eyes, the stage lights. You can't actually see who you're communicating to. You can't make eye contact. There's media in the room. You've got a teleprompter in front of you. How do I navigate my body and the space on this 60-foot stage? And what do I do with my arms? These are the things that I worked with big senior corporate leaders on for probably about a decade. I was in that industry, and it really honed my focus for how a message is delivered and how a senior executive can change hearts and minds in the room. And that's the whole purpose for them getting on stage, is to change what that audience thinks and believes about them, about the leadership, about their new product, about their new, pharmaceutical drug that's going to street on Monday, whatever the corporate message is. Why are we talking from the stage, if not to change hearts and minds? And so I moved from that industry into academia. And so when you say I'm from academia, I'm not an academic, but I was a resource and a creative communications aid to some really wonderful global faculty. And we packaged up, as many business schools do, we packaged up executive education that was then delivered into big global Fortune 500 companies. And these academics, these faculty were brilliant at teaching and brilliant at lecturing. And what I did was help them do things other than just lecture, other than case study analysis. So we did a lot of things through learning through metaphor and experiential and simulations and some really creative and, sticky ways of having senior executives learn business and leadership skills. So that was fun. And from there, I moved into external consulting. And so I did some consulting work specifically for strategy execution simulations, how to have corporate executives understand the execution needed for their strategy and doing that learned through simulation. So that was really fun. And then after that, I moved internal. So I've been on the academic side, on the external consultant side, then on the internal side as a strategist and a leadership development and executive development sort of specialist. And that means creating programs that leaders at different levels might go through. Maybe it's a 4-month program or a 1-week program to learn different skills. Sometimes there's assessments, psychometric assessments and testing that goes hand in hand with that to expose gaps that they might need to shore up or expose strengths and expose values, sort of uncover some of those hidden areas. And also coaching. Coaching is oftentimes embedded in some of that leadership development programs. And so I'm a certified coach through the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. So all of that work sort of comes together, and it all started on the stage. It all started with like corporate theater. So that's how I got into leadership development. Bit of a winding journey, but it makes sense when I connect the dots in hindsight. It makes a lot of sense.
What a path, huh, Natalie?
Fantastic. That is fantastic. I just have to ask one question, not relation to you. Did you hear a helicopter going? Did you hear like the sound?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just going to close the door because that's me coming back again, okay? So just make yourself comfortable. I'll be back in a minute.
Got it.
Hopefully they're not coming to get her.
Natalie, oh my goodness.
I heard that. Hopefully they're not going to get me. Imagine they'll be like parasailing down. Natalie,
they found her out.
We want you
that
to
one
do.
sounded like that one was like right above your house, Natalie.
Yeah, so it's really hot in the UK right now. After having awful weather, the sun has come out and it's glorious. And I was just too hot, so I opened the door. But we're on like close by there's an airport, and all the helicopters are out having a nice sightseeing time. Yeah, so the door's closed now. Let's get back to you. They're not coming to take me away.
Oh, goodness. All right. Wow. It's so interesting, Marissa. Your background is just incredible. It spans so many areas from academia, consulting, and global corporate spaces. That gives you such a unique lens. So let's start right there. Let's talk about bravery at work. You talk a lot about being brave at work. What does bravery look like in leadership, especially in corporate environments where fear often goes unspoken?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks feel like being brave means having no fear. And it doesn't. Bravery actually means being courageous in the face of fear, being able to take action even when we are fearful. Mm-hmm. And so there is not a place in corporate leadership where there is a lack of fear. I mean, fear is present. And yet leaders are called to be brave and be courageous anyhow. So when I'm working with leaders, we're not working on trying to overcome fear. We're working on trying to harness it, trying to harness that energy and embrace it and know that fear is a signal for us internally that something is at stake, something is important. So we work to harness that energy to propel the leader forward. So that, the corporate environment can be a place where it can be hard to be brave. It can be hard to be courageous. There's a desire to stay safe. There's a desire to stay quiet. There's a real desire for self-preservation or resource preservation, preserve your team, preserve your budget, preserve your autonomy, your decision-making abilities. And there's sometimes a real a risk to reputation, a risk to job security, a risk that as a leader, that your followership might be jeopardized if you step out and do something that is courageous. So it can be really scary in corporate environments to be a courageous leader.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not easy to speak up when you think that actually it'd be so much easier to be quiet.
Very much so. Marissa, let's talk about a personal courage moment that you've shared with us. There was a moment in your own career when you had to step out in real courage. Can you take us into that moment? What were you afraid of, and what did you do anyway, and what changed because of it?
Yeah, so I'll tell the story of a time when I needed to be brave, and specifically when my values weren't aligned with some leadership behavior that I was seeing in one of my organizations. So, what I find is that much of our own strife and stress is attributed to times where our values are out of alignment. What we're experiencing in the situation isn't aligned with our values. And we might not always recognize it as such, but if you dig deep down into, why is this thing bothering me? Why is this keeping me up? Why do I keep revisiting this area? Why does this offend me? Why does this panic me? If you dig deep enough, it's usually one of your deeply held values is being stepped on,
Yeah.
or not honored in some way. It's usually stripped down to that as the root cause. And so in the instance that I'm sharing with you today, it was my value of equity and really egalitarianism, which is just my notion that everyone should have the same treatment and have the same opportunities and have the same consequences as everyone else in the organization, regardless of status or title or place in the organization. And you've heard the phrase before, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I believe that. I believe that we should all be treated very, very similarly by the systems that we are working within and for. And so that was being stepped on, in my view. And unfortunately, I was not brave enough to say something about it at the beginning. I was afraid. I was afraid of either not being heard or, frankly, of being heard and what the consequences of being heard might be, and what the consequences might be in an organization where you're shining light into the dark corners. And I later did muster the courage to speak up and speak out, but only after it was at a tipping point. And I think that's the place that a lot of us get to, is a tipping point. And we each have sort of a different line in the sand as to where we draw that. We have different measures of what we'll tolerate, of what we will endure, of what we'll witness and bear witness to in the treatment of others. And everyone has a different tipping point at which staying silent really becomes more costly than speaking up, than the risk of speaking up. And so when I chose to step out in bravery and be courageous, it wasn't that I wasn't still scared. There was still fear there, and I did it anyhow. That's the definition of bravery. But when I was acting in alignment with my values, it immediately felt better in my mind and in my body. And I can just tell you, I literally felt a physical difference. I felt like the burden on my shoulders was lifted. And I don't mean to say that the heavens opened up and music played, and once I made this action and bravery, everything was fine. But I truly felt a difference in my own being. And shoring up the gap, that dissonance that we feel when who we are is not who we're being, is a really satisfying gap to close. It just feels great. And so what changed for me when I was able to do that was it increased my confidence and my esteem, and it made the next brave actions possible. Clarity comes through action. And so once I was able to take the first step in courage, then the second step in courage became more clear. And ultimately, it led to me deciding to bet on myself and really shift into full-time entrepreneurship, which is where I am
Well,
today. And I'm
well
thrilled
done.
to have made that leap.
Super brave. Super brave. That's fantastic. That's brilliant. And
Yeah.
you said it feels great. And it was on the tip of my tongue because I could just imagine you'd made that decision. And despite feeling probably a little bit terrified about what would happen, as you said, it's not like you didn't have this like heavenly aura around you and all the birds singing and that kind of thing, but it must have felt so good. So good. You can
Yeah.
see it. It's like beaming off your face. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So for those
This,
people who are watching, look at Marissa's face because that's like,
I know
I
she's a
did
happy
it.
girl.
I did it. She's
But
fabulous.
and we all have these moments in our lives where when I'm working with some of my leaders, I talk with them about filling in the blank of this sentence. If I had more courage, I would blank.
Oh, I like that.
What would you do? What would the bravest version of yourself do? And we can ask ourselves that on a daily basis. We can ask ourselves that for any given year. This year, what would the bravest version of myself do or stop doing?
Mm.
Good question. Good
And
question to ask
I
yourself.
was going to say, and Marissa, we told you before, you're not going to turn this into a session on us. So I am going to refocus this on you. We talked to you before the show about preparing a love note to your former self. So if you could speak to the woman in the early days of her career, the one that was navigating uncertainty, maybe doubting her readiness, and all of those sorts of things, what would you tell her?
Yeah. I love the question. And I love that you all do this as part of your podcast because reflecting back on our younger selves is such a powerful exercise. And you all do a really nice job. This is a unique aspect of your particular show to really lift all women up. So I did my homework, I prepared. Here's my letter.
There it is.
It's a short one. I've learned over the years to be more concise than I used to be when I was younger. So it's a short letter. Dear younger me, stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is a myth. You don't need to be perfect to be taken seriously. The fear you feel isn't a warning sign. It's a signal that something matters, that it's important. Do the thing. Scared anyhow. Say the thing imperfectly. And trust that you'll grow into the courage as you practice it. You don't need to be fearless to be brave.
Oh, it's beautiful. How did you feel writing that, Marissa?
I really felt like I really wish I had heard this message earlier, and maybe I did. Maybe
Yeah.
parents and mentors and teachers did convey something, but it just has a different resonance at this age and stage of life. And so if there are younger women in their careers, or I mean, frankly, anyone at any age, it's still a message that we could all use to hear, probably. I certainly can. And I think I'll need to hear this message again
Yeah.
in a month or two, in a year or two, in
Yeah.
another decade, because what we're fearful of and what constitutes bravery changes over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
interesting. Our guests have said the same thing, that they will reflect back on that note. Some of them said that they would put it up by their laptop at the office or on their mirror in their bathroom just to remind themselves of the note they sent to themselves. It's very strong, isn't it?
it's so
Really speaks.
powerful because how often we've talked about how difficult it is to do a podcast that's all about you. How often have you afforded yourself the time to write something to yourself and then to truly take that on board? We just don't do that.
Mm.
We're not kind enough to ourselves. And as you said, maybe that's something, if you'd heard that earlier on, would that have made a difference? It might not have, right? Because it might be that now is the time that you're ready to hear it.
Mm.
We could be super kind to ourselves and actually just take a moment. Take a moment and reflect and take care of yourself. Cool. So I'm going to ask another question. Fear versus readiness. Okay, so many women wait to feel ready before they speak up, apply, or step into leadership specifically. So, from your experience coaching senior leaders, how do you help women reframe that fear, not as a warning, but as a signal?
Good question.
If we wait until we're ready, we'll never take action. Most people, if you wait until you're ready, you're past the ripe moment. The
Yeah.
ripe moment is when we are thoughtfully prepared and yet still don't quite feel ready. I'm not advocating for jumping out in absolute haste in any big decision, in any brave action, but if we sit back and wait until the moment feels exactly right, we've probably missed the real opportunity. So, courage isn't about feeling ready. It's not about being good. It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing.
Yeah.
Being willing to recognize that there's something, an internal signal that something feels disjointed, something feels misaligned, something doesn't quite feel right, something's not landing with you. Why is that? It almost always boils down to a misalignment of values. And how do you go about making that alignment right within you?
Yep.
Sometimes that can be done through reframing, and sometimes that can be done through external action. So sometimes it's about what we say to ourselves, and sometimes it's about what we say out into the world. But it's not about being ready, it's about being willing, I would say. And it's about being willing to step out of your comfort zone, even when your heart is racing.
Yeah.
Being willing to be seen before you're polished.
Yeah.
Being willing to be heard, the idea before it's fully baked. That's what bravery really looks like.
I actually really like that. Not being ready, but being willing. I mean, there's lots of amazing things you said then as well, but that really resonates with me. Being willing. Fantastic.
Why not just take that chance? How is that going to hurt you? When you really think about it, we get caught up in our own heads, don't we? Our headspace.
Yeah.
That's so true.
So much.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of the
And
friction is very internal friction. And so when I work with senior leaders, I have kind of a process for helping them get over this hump and getting into action, getting out of their heads and into courageous action and tackling some scary goals that they may set. And it's kind of a three-part process. First, we explore what those values are. Some people know their values. Some people don't. Some people know maybe one or two things that they really stand for, but they don't really know what are my 5 or my 10 most deeply held core values. So we start with exploration. What are their barriers? What are some limiting beliefs that they might have? What are their internal critics saying to them? What are their external critics saying? So that's step 1 is exploration. And then step 2, we game plan. We put together a playbook. We put together a plan of action. And then third, we take action in small chunks, not that big action first, but experimental action.
Yeah.
Kind of testing behaviors out, testing ways of being out, and then seeing how does that land? How does that feel? And so small experiments and small actions get us to be able to take the large action. When I do this with my clients, I'm right there with them. We partner together on this. It's truly a partnership, and so that they're not feeling alone in building this courage muscle.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just going to segue into that question too about practical courage tools.
Yeah.
And you were one step ahead of me on that.
Well,
I find that so interesting. So when you're working and you're consulting with these leaders, then that is the direction you take them. And it completely makes sense how you work with them
yeah.
in understanding that, so they better understand the tools needed to step forward?
I have some tools that I can share with you that I work with clients on as well. What I just covered is my process that we go through over many different sessions. But then, in terms of tools that are really practical and things that the listeners could use today, courage doesn't always mean speaking up. Courage sometimes means slowing down. Courage sometimes means biting your tongue. Sometimes it means impulse control, not saying something. So courage for different people looks like different things, but one tool is what happens when we slow down. Slowing down to explore what's the real reason that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. What's the real thing that's at stake? What's really causing this to feel like it would require a brave moment? So slowing down is one tool. And another tool is repetition and practice, because courage isn't a personality trait. It's a skill that can be learned. And it's actually a daily decision, right? So some of us have heard this saying before, do something every day that feels scary. And doing that helps you build this muscle, this courage muscle. And so in the leadership world, I think we sometimes over celebrate boldness and we underteach courage. Courage is teachable, and it starts with small actions. So it's analogous to going to the gym and looking at a huge barbell and saying, I cannot lift that huge barbell. Well, of course you can't, because it's day one in the gym. But if we go to the gym every day and we start with small barbells and we start with small and we're building this muscle, then one day we go in and we can lift the big barbell. Mm-hmm. But in that analogy, if we wait in our leadership journey until there's a big moment, a big pivotal thing that requires a leadership action that requires courage, in other words, we need to lift this big barbell, and we haven't practiced it in daily small ways of showing courage, we won't have that muscle at the ready to be able to lift that big, heavy leadership moment. So one of my tools is practice. Not theoretical, but true practice. So it really is about every day do something that scares you, because it is building that muscle that will be useful later for that bigger moment that we may not even know about yet.
Good suggestion.
I love it. So we're going to take a mini break. Okay, everyone, let's take a moment together. We're at the halfway point. So whatever you are right now, pause. Take a breath in. And remember, you have the power to create change, to influence the world around you, and to lead with humility, empathy, and intention. This is your reminder to straighten that crown, girlfriend, because you've absolutely got this. Feeling a little more grounded, a little more lifted. Good, because we've only just got started. Back to you, Deb.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. This was so great. The energy, the quick 30-second reflection feels good. And Marissa, it's fantastic having you on the program with us. So we've got a few more questions for you, if that's okay. So let's talk about courage in corporate culture. In corporate spaces where fear often goes unspoken, what is one brave behavior you wish more leaders would practice consistently?
I don't know that it comes down to one behavior across the board for all leaders at all levels. And by the way, I should probably say that leader to me doesn't necessarily just mean someone in management, doesn't necessarily just mean someone who is a people leader. I believe everyone is a leader. So individual contributors, specialists, even if you don't have formal direct reports, everyone is a leader in how they have self-leadership, how they comport themselves, how they conduct themselves. So we can all display leadership no matter what level we are. But the one behavior for all leaders, it would be different for each leader. The one thing I would say is to do something. So just like we just talked about, do something every day that scares you, do something. And what that something is for you might be different than what that something is for me. But what's crucial is to do it. It's the doing of it. It's the lifting of the weight that matters. I don't necessarily think that all leaders should lift 25-pound weights. Some leaders should lift 50-pound weights. Some leaders should lift 3-pound weights, right? But it's the lifting of the weight that matters. It's the doing of it. And it's the doing of it consistently and with a lot of practice that really makes a difference, which is why we're talking about being brave on a daily basis. What does it mean daily? Because if courage shows up only in emergencies, it's too late.
Good point.
That's a scary thought. If it comes up in an emergency and that's it, you missed your moment.
Right. Right. So for each person, those weights look different. An 8-pound weight, a 25-pound weight. For some people, it looks like speaking up in a team meeting. For other people, they're like, oh, that's nothing for me. But I get nervous when I speak up in a town hall. For other people, that's nothing for me. But I get nervous when I'm dissenting, when I'm really disagreeing, especially up the chain. For other people, they say, no, I always speak truth to power, no problem. But if I have to advocate for someone else, if I have to put my reputation on the line for someone else, that's what really sort of scares me, the unknown.
Yeah.
So for different people, it looks like different things, but representing somebody who has less leverage or less power than you do, representing somebody who's not in the room, that takes courage, that takes bravery as well. So how you express your leadership and how you pump your iron looks different for every person.
We're all going to be
We've all had those sweaty palm moments, haven't we?
Oh yeah,
throughout our careers.
100%. If you don't get that, then what's the point? Really, what is the point? So, just talking a bit more about courage, but courage as legacy. So, if a woman listening today feels stuck, is fearful, or unsure of her next step, what would you, Marissa, want her to remember about courage as she moves from where she is now towards her own boardroom?
If someone is feeling stuck or feel fearful, I would want them to know that it's not them. It's not that something's broken. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel fear. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel stuck. We all do at various points. Sometimes we feel stuck multiple times in any given day, right? So it's not you. And bravery and courage isn't inherent. It's not, oh, she is so brave. I could never do that. Yes, you can. You can do something either just as brave as what you see someone else doing or something that is brave to you.
Yep.
So here's what I see with leaders that I work with and leaders that I coach. When they step out in big ways, when they embrace their courageousness and when they really act bravely, they get really energized from it. They're able to refill their own cup because playing small and squelching what's important to you is exhausting.
Yeah.
But being brave is really energizing.
Yeah.
And bravery begets bravery. When another woman sees you being brave, she'll step out and do something as well. And we create this virtuous cycle. But most people think that bravery is a feeling. I don't feel brave. I don't feel ready. And it's not a skill set. And it's one that we can learn. It's one that we can practice. And so to your question, if someone is feeling uncertain or feeling fearful, the one thing that I would want them to know is you don't have to be fearless to be brave. And you don't have to navigate this alone.
Fantastic. Very wise words, Marissa. It's lovely. Fabulous. If you could leave our listeners with one message about practicing bravery every day, what would that be?
I think it goes back to the old adage, find something every day to do that feels scary, that feels like a stretch, that feels like you're really strengthening that courage muscle. Daily bravery.
I'm going to put that on my to-do list.
It's big. I mean, that is big. There's
Put it on my schedule.
There's so many things that I'm attempting to be brave with, some new business venture and things like that. But being brave about driving on the motorway, I can't do it. I'm going to add that to my little list of things because that will give me sweaty palms for sure. And I can drive. It's just driving on the motorway does not work for me at all. So I'm staying in my little safe zone. So
staying in my lane.
I should do
that. We might have to work on that, Natalie.
I'm going to be asking you about
We can't
that,
have you
Natalie.
taking side streets all your life. We're going to have to work on this.
People in the car would say to me, so are we going to go this way or are we going to go that? No, we're definitely going the route that I know and I don't have to go on the motorway. That's the way we're going. But I'm going to practice and I'm going to take on board some of the tools that you've mentioned. And maybe by the time we next speak, I can say, I was really brave, Marissa. I was really brave.
So you bring out the coach in me, Natalie, and the coach in me would say, what is one small step that you could make
Baby steps.
to feel brave in that regard?
Okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. By the time we get to broadcast this, you can add something on. Natalie did drive on the motorway.
With me, it's presenting in front of people. Can you believe that? I have such a struggle with that. I just feel like all eyes in the room are looking at me and the whole idea, I would rather stay back behind stage and listen to everybody else speak than me go out on that stage in front of everybody and speak.
So common. That is the number one. The American Psychological Association ranks Americans' fears every year. And up until I think maybe like the last 4 years or so, public speaking was the number one fear. Number one.
Okay, Deb.
Over
You know what's coming.
Let me just share. Over the fear of death, public speaking was the number one.
Really?
Wow. So
I'd have to put a link to the list of Americans' fears with this podcast.
So interesting.
it's just one step down from the fear of dying. That's just crazy.
Not necessarily one step down, but fear of
Okay.
nuclear war was one thing. Fear of
Okay.
dying was another thing. Fear of social situations, fear of spiders, fear of heights, all of those things, and fear of public speaking has consistently ranked for many, many, many years, up until about the last 4, as the top one.
Wow.
Interesting.
We like to bring it back to music a little bit as well, Marissa. All the way through, I was getting various different song tracks popping up in my head. But for you, if you could play a song that represented your journey, what would it be and why?
There's so many aspects to each of our journeys, but for this particular conversation, it would be the song Brave by Sarah Bareilles. I love the refrain. It's so empowering. And if anyone has seen the music video, hear my dog.
You must have
Wow.
started playing it, and he's like, "Hey, I love that song."
And he's like, I am brave.
I have to say, I don't know that I'd come to your front door if I heard that.
I know. He feels like
That
it's
would be
his
brave.
job to eat all the delivery people that come. Yes.
Wow.
He's actually got a really sweet face. He just sounds, his bark is
Ferocious.
ferocious.
He's probably afraid. That's what's happened, and he's just being protective. So
We got to talk to him about his fears.
He's
Is
a big,
that
brave
right?
shepherd. Jackson. He's my little schmoopy. If anyone has seen the video for the Sarah Bareilles song, it is so joyful and so fun. And folks are dancing without a care in the world of who's looking, who is judging. It's a really fun message about being brave.
Gorgeous. Thank
Gotta
you.
listen to that. Listen
Thank
in
you.
on that one. Marissa, thank you so much for your insight today, your honesty, and reminding us that courage isn't a personality trait. It's a daily decision. Boy, did I learn that today. I've got my checklist now.
Yeah. We've got so much work to do.
I know. Oh my goodness. It's great. You can see how successful you are as being a coach with leaders. You've given Natalie and I and our listeners so much to think about. Oh, there he is again. Speaking of fearful.
Absolutely. It's been beautiful.
Thank you. Now, you all made me have this podcast episode be about me, but in a normal coaching engagement, it's about my client. And it's much more about not hearing my advice or my quote unquote wisdom. It's really about mining for their own inherent internal wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom, knowledge, and guides in this episode. It's been beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me on the program. I've really enjoyed it. It's really a fun program that you all are putting together specifically for women leaders of all ages and stages. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Marissa. And Natalie, thank you for hopping on. As always, appreciate you.
We are there together, Deb. You know,
We are.
we're facing that fear and we're doing it anyway.
Yes. Yes, we are.
An incredible conversation, a powerful reminder of what happens when women step into their voice, their influence, and their full potential. Every woman listening today carries that same strength within her. To our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of Birth to Boardroom. Keep rising, keep leading, and keep showing the world what's possible when women back themselves. And before you go, share this episode and invite others into our global community of empowered women. Don't forget to visit www.birthtoboardroom.com and join the movement.